Shalom. This week's Torah portion is Parashat Vayetze, beginning with verse 10 of chapter 28 in the book of Genesis. Why was Yaakov's life's journey so much more difficult than that of Abraham and Yitzchak? True, as we know, Abraham faced 10 tests, and Yitzchak's life, as exemplified by his binding as an intended offering, was far from easy. But Yaakov's life was one of continuous trials and challenges. This reality reflects his unique spiritual mission, as it was given to Yakov to establish the nation of Israel. The roles of Abraham and Yitzchak were preliminary, paving the way, establishing the covenant of Hashem, and spreading the values of monotheism in the world. We have learned that Abraham represents chesed, kindness, and expansiveness, while Yitzchak embodies the attribute of gvura, meaning strength and discipline. Yakov is the synthesis of both. He's a perfect blend and balance of his forefathers' traits. Yaakov's attribute of tiferet, which means harmony and truth, integrates and refines his forebears' qualities into a rectified pathway for serving God. This attribute prepared Yaakov for the difficult mission that faces him in this week's Torah portion, to enter the world of Lavan, ostensibly a world of danger and intrigue, but on a deeper level, it's even worse. Literally, the realm of the unholy. His mission, to extract from there the hidden sparks of holiness. Yaakov's mission is inherently more complex than that of Abraham and Yitzchak. He must balance and ultimately unite spiritual opposites, and he must prepare for divine revelation that will serve as the foundation for the building of the nation of Israel. Thus, his role required active confrontation with forces of negativity. Only by successfully confronting these forces could he establish the eternal identity of the people of Israel as a nation capable of overcoming challenges, a holy nation tasked with revealing the divine light in the world. Yaakov's trials reflect the process of becoming Israel. His life is one of constant refinement. His struggles with Esav and then with Lavan, and especially with the angel that he'll be wrestling with in next week's Torah portion of Vayishlach, they're all stages in his journey towards becoming Yisrael, one who struggles with God and man and prevails. As the Maharal explains, Yaakov's struggles embody the core Jewish experience, the necessity of wrestling with challenges while striving for spiritual elevation. Our portion opens as Yaakov sets out on his journey towards Haran, compelled to stop and sleep at Mount Moriah, where he dreams of a ladder set earthward, whose top reached heavenward. This dream conveys the role that Hashem has given him to serve as a bridge between the spiritual and physical worlds, working towards rectifying the spiritual deficiencies of this world, and thus his trials are part of the divine plan to refine and elevate the sparks of holiness trapped within the klipot, the realm of impurity. Yaakov continues his journey, meeting Rachel at the well and arriving at the house of Lavan, his mother's brother. So open up your heart, because Esav is an overt adversary. The danger posed by Lavan is even greater, but his approach is subtle and cunning. Lavan is the archetype of deception. He's a master manipulator and a master of psychological warfare. His very name, Lavan, means white, suggesting purity, one might think. But the very opposite is true, and everything about him reveals that he maintains a smooth exterior facade. Lavan embodies deceit, cloaked in an appearance of righteousness. As Midrash Tanchuma teaches, his name alludes to his ability to appear virtuous while engaging in profound wickedness. His fabricated external veneer conceals his internal corruption. Verse 13 tells us, and it was, when Lavan heard the news of Yaakov, his sister's son, he ran toward him, embraced him, and kissed him, and took him to his house. Midrash Rabbah states that Lavan's initial embrace and kiss of Yaakov were not acts of affection, but an attempt to search for hidden wealth. Now, far from being a whimsical interpretation portraying Lavan as a goofy con artist, this simple midrashic teaching introduces us to the true Lavan, a master manipulator whose cunning lies in his ability to exploit relationships for his benefit while convincing others of his fairness. As we shall see, Lavan employed psychological warfare against Yaakov. He exploited family bonds, using familial ties to control and manipulate Yaakov. By presenting himself as a caring relative, he intends to draw Yaakov into his sphere of influence and hold him captive there. So open up your heart in the deepest way. Whereas Esav is a material foe, Lavan is a spiritual adversary, a force of unholiness. Midrash relates that Lavan understood that Yaakov's children would be the progenitors of a holy nation, and he was intent on actively interfering in order to prevent Yaakov from fulfilling his destiny of building this nation. Zohar teaches that Lavan represents the klipa, the forces of negativity that desire to obstruct the manifestation of divine order in the world by seeking to trap the sparks of holiness inherent in Yaakov's mission. By keeping Yaakov in his household, Lavan hopes to retain control over these sparks. His deceitful substitution of Leah for Rachel was not merely an act of greed or opportunism, but something far more sinister. It was a calculated attempt to thwart the orderly birth of the 12 tribes, who were to be the foundations of the nation of Israel. On the deepest spiritual level, this was a battle over souls. Yaakov's mission was to bring specific souls into the world that were entrusted to him by heavenly decree, souls of immense spiritual potential that would shape the destiny of the nation. Lavan knew that each tribe represented a unique channel of divine energy in the world. He was intensely aware how urgent it was for Yaakov and his wives to bring forth these souls, how their births are steps towards the fulfillment of God's covenant. Together, Rachel and Leah manifest the complete expression of holiness that is needed to establish the nation. By switching Leah for Rachel, Lavan sought to confuse these energies and obstruct the order of their entrance into the world. He believed that if he could interrupt the divinely intended unions, the tribe's destined souls might fall. They might fall short, they might fail to manifest in their proper order or strength, and in this manner, he could derail the divine plan and delay the establishment of the nation of Israel, while at the same time creating confusion and rivalry between Rachel and Leah that would undermine the harmony necessary for Yaakov to build a unified family. Now, the rivalry between Rachel and Leah, though ultimately resolved, was greatly exacerbated by Laban's interference, creating tension that might have jeopardized the unity required for the success of the tribe's spiritual mission. So open up your heart, deeper still. Lavan, the embodiment of the klipa forces of impurity, aimed to hijack the birth of the tribes. Essentially, his actions were a form of spiritual sabotage. His aim was to delay the rectification of the whole world and maintain his domain of chaos. However, Yaakov's perseverance and faith ultimately ensured the fulfillment of his mission, establishing a legacy of holiness that overcame the forces of deception and impurity. This was a cosmic struggle between holiness and impurity, and a triumph of truth over falsehood. So why is it that why did he fear the birth of the tribe so much? Well, since Lavan's thing is the force of deception and chaos, he recognized the children's birth as a direct threat to his domain. He sought to perpetuate spiritual chaos by preventing the orderly establishment of the tribes, which would introduce holiness and truth into the world. Like Esau, his goal was to obstruct Yaakov from fulfilling his mission. By interfering with the birth of the tribes, Lavan aligned himself with Esau's agenda and is an accomplice to Esau's cosmic battle against holiness. Lavan's excuse for switching Leah for Rachel, as verse 26 relates, "It is not done this way in our place, to give the younger before the elder." It's a veiled acknowledgement of his deeper intent. Midrash informs us that this justification, under the pretense of respecting local customs, reflects his desire to impose his own corrupt values on Yaakov's family structure, attempting to subvert the divine order of the tribe's creation. Make no mistake, Lavan's endgame was absolute control and subjugation. By manipulating the marriage arrangements, Lavan hoped to ensure that Yaakov would remain under his influence for an extended period, and the extra time would afford him more opportunities to interfere with the family's spiritual development. Lavan further tried to dehumanize Yaakov by assigning him grueling, endless work under unfair conditions, intending to break his spirit. He sought to dominate Yaakov both materially, by enslaving him to hard labor and withholding his wages, and spiritually, by entangling him in a corrupt environment. In chapter 31 and verse 41, we read Yaakov's words, "This is my 20 years in your household. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters and 6 years for your flocks, and you changed my wages 100 times. Now, on the simplest level of meaning, Lavan's constant reworking of Yaakov's wages was meant to exhaust Yaakov materially and spiritually, weakening his ability to establish the nation of Israel. But on a much deeper level, Lavan, as a force, attempted to trap Yaakov to remain under his power, preventing him from ascending spiritually and fulfilling his destiny. And this is why he made numerous attempts to thwart Yaakov in his mission, exploiting time through deceptive contracts and prolonged servitude. This was Lavan's true intention in repeatedly changing Yaakov's wages and altering their terms. He sought to use this tactic to keep Yaakov off balance and perpetually dependent. Ultimately, Lavan picks up where Esav left off. His intention is to strip Yaakov of his blessings and reclaim the power that he believes is rightfully his. And Lavan's desire to keep Yaakov and his family under his control reflects his aim to usurp the spiritual blessings meant for Yaakov. And this is the true meaning of Lavan's words in verse 43 of that same chapter. The daughters are my daughters, the children are my children, and the flock is my flock. He refers to Yaakov's wives and children as my daughters and my children, attempting to lay claim to them and extend his power over them. Lavan's plan didn't work. Yaakov's attribute of emet, truth, is the antidote to Lavan's deception. Despite Lavan's efforts, Yaakov's unwavering commitment to truth and righteousness enables him, with Hashem's help, to outmaneuver Lavan. By enduring Lavan's manipulations and emerging victorious, Yaakov overcomes the spiritual opposition and extracts and elevates the holy sparks trapped within Lavan's domain. The house of Lavan represents the archetypal exile, a place of deception, materialism, and spiritual darkness, a place where holiness is concealed and must be reclaimed. Yaakov's ability to thrive in Lavan's household reflects Israel's mission to bring holiness into the darkest corners of the world. Despite Lavan's efforts, Yaakov succeeds in bringing all 12 tribes into the world, each with its own unique spiritual role. By surviving Lavan's deceptions and building his family in that environment, Yaakov demonstrated how holiness could triumph even in the most spiritually adverse conditions. So open up your heart deeper than ever before. We all contend with personal struggles in which we sometimes feel that our very lives are a battleground between truth and deception. The Yaakov-Lavan dichotomy also relates to our own inner struggle of truth versus self-deception, and our desire for holiness is marred by having to contend with corrupt influences. Yaakov's trials were necessary because truth can only be fully realized when it's tested against deception. It was confrontation with Lavan that forced Yaakov to his crisis, brought out the best in him, empowered him with the tools he needed to refine his spiritual attribute of truth through perseverance. Yaakov's struggles with both Esav and Lavan are not merely personal, but cosmic in scope, and his life demonstrates how truth emerges stronger when tested and tempered by falsehood and chaos. His navigation through trials and deception becomes a prototype for us, instructing us how to face challenges in a world where truth is too often obscured. And Yakov was the first patriarch to experience exile, foretelling the Jewish people's eventual exiles, and honing and perfecting the strength that they would need to endure those exiles. His resolution teaches us how to remain steadfast, and he illuminates a path for us to navigate the darkness of exile and emerge to the light of redemption. This Shabbat of Parashat Vayetze is the first Shabbat of this month of Kislev, and there's a profound connection between our forefather Yaakov and the month of Kislev. It's a connection rooted in the spiritual journey of bringing light into darkness and revealing the hidden potential of holiness. Kislev is a month of miracles, dreams, and trust in God, ideas that resonate deeply with Yaakov's life and legacy. According to tradition, Yaakov passed away on Sukkot and was buried 70 days later during Hanukkah, the joyous holiday of light that begins on the 25th day of this month. Thus, Yaakov's very essence is intimately bound up with both Sukkot and Hanukkah, and the entire period in between. This is called the 70-day journey, the 70-day journey from Sukkot to Hanukkah, and it represents a process of spiritual transformation. 70 symbolizes completion, reflecting the refinement of the hidden sparks of holiness scattered throughout creation. Yaakov's burial on Hanukkah shows us that the hidden light that is revealed during this upcoming festival, the light of miracles, completes and fulfills the journey of trust that begins on Sukkot. It's a reminder that even in times of mourning or difficulty, God's presence is with us, leading us to redemption. Yaakov's connection to Kislev is also one of both light and dreams. Yaakov is famously connected to dreams. His dream of the ladder connecting heaven and earth opens Parashat Vayetze, our Parsha, this first Torah portion that we're reading in this month of Kislev. And in the coming weeks, we'll also be reading the Torah portions recounting his son Yosef's dreams. On one level of understanding, dreams in Torah represent hidden truths and potential waiting to be revealed. Yaakov's life teaches us to dream, to see beyond what's immediately visible, and to recognize that even in exile or challenge, God's light is guiding us. Chanukah, the highlight of Kislev, is a celebration of revealing light in darkness. Just as Yakov trusted in God's presence during his struggles, the light we kindle reminds us that even a small flame can illuminate the deepest darkness. Kislev is a month of hidden depths, transformation, and transcendence. It's a time wherein we can begin to uncover the concealed light within ourselves, realign ourselves with the divine will, and prepare for the ultimate redemption. And Yaakov's journey models the path towards personal and collective redemption, and his endurance and eventual deliverance is a portent of the journey of his descendants, the people of Israel, all throughout history, from exile to redemption, from darkness to light.